Good morning, everybody, and welcome here at this at the GCM in Berlin here with the Webinar.Live session, which is actually sponsored by Deutsche Telekom and Sienna. So thank you very much for this. We're going to talk about how to interconnect actually now and in the future, and which choices and new standards do we have or do we have to look for. So, and for this, I'm very happy and proud to have such a senior panel here next to me. So I will start with to give them a quick minute to introduce themselves. So please.
Yes. So hi everybody. Thank you very much. My name is Gabor Deri. I work for Deutsche Telekom Global Carrier. I'm currently heading the customer sales and service desk unit. And pleased in Hungary. Pleased to be here.
Thank you so much. Charmant.
Yes. Hello. My name is Charmant. I'm from DC Connect Global. What DC Connect Global do is we run and operate a network of 1,000 hubs globally, all managed under the SDN, and we invest into cable to connect all the network together. And we also develop a piece of software that enabled clients to easily orchestrate all this through network. And that is something that we keep on expanding and developing our software in order to meet the customer needs.
Okay, and where are you based?
We are a Singaporean company, but I travel a lot. Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, Southeast Asia, and now this time, finally, I can travel to Europe again. That's something that I really appreciate, looking forward to. Get the most out of this.
And happy to see you and happy to have you here. Thank you. So from Singapore, we go just to Amsterdam to Wouter. Welcome.
Thank you, Eric, and thanks for being here. My name is Wouter Ensing. I work with the Amsterdam Internet Exchange, where I'm responsible for business development. Internet exchanges, as you probably know, were the cornerstones of the internet. As we say, the plumbers of the internet. You know, we physically connect things together, and with that enable all the beautiful technologies and network services on top of the internet.
Okay, thank you, Wouter. Jens, welcome.
Thank you, Eric. Good morning, everybody. Jens Leuchters, my name, Managing Director of New Telco, based in Frankfurt, headquartered in Frankfurt. We are a system integrator for mainly carriers for physical infrastructure. So mainly we're doing data center co-location. We're doing the interconnection in the data centers for our customers a lot. But we also do interconnection between data centers. We do hardware stack, and we surround it with our own engineering team. So we do warm remote hands, rack and stack, and so forth. That's what we are doing.
Okay, thank you so much. And let's see if we have Arvind virtual joining us from Sienna. Is Arvind there?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. My name is Arvind Patel from Sienna. Sienna is a networking systems software and services company. I work there as a consultant, very, very passionate about networks and the role it plays in our digital society. And I hope to be able to share some of those insights with you today.
Okay, thank you. And we didn't have a visual yet, but we could hear you loud and clear. So thank you very much, Arvind. And I think we have a visual with Eric, right?
Indeed. Thanks, Eric. My name is Eric Kreifelt. I'm a principal analyst with Telegeography. We're a market research firm that covers the global market for network services, wholesale, retail, including enterprise and consumer, and we focus on international transactions.
Thank you for joining us, Eric, because I know it's quite early on your side, right?
Indeed, but the fish are up, so we're ready to go.
Okay. Thank you very much. And now we have a visual on Arvind as well, so everything is working. So let's move on, and if I may invite Gabor from Deutsche Telekom to kick it off, because we will have a joint keynote presentation, ladies and gentlemen, from Deutsche Telekom and Sienna. So it will be absolutely exciting, and looking forward to what they have to share with us. So
thank you very much. So again, a little bit about who we are as a Deutsche Telekom Global Carrier. So we as a Deutsche Telekom Global Carrier are acting as the international wholesale arm of the Deutsche Telekom family. We are fairly big in terms of the of the voice business, we are doing more than 26 billion in terms of the minutes per year on the voice side. We are also doing pretty major IP traffic. It's more than 35k petabytes. Also, the base is directly connected to all the major IP, etc. And what is fairly important in terms of the data side, that we are also an infrastructure-based company. We also have the German affiliate as Deutsche Telekom, but also plenty of other affiliates in different countries, before NATO countries. And it's, I would say, 250,000 fiber what we have in the ground and what we are operating. At the end of this, is a very large number, and we are reaching millions, tens of millions of the customers, which is pretty important in terms of understanding what are the data needs of these customers and what are also the interconnection needs for the customers we have at the end of the fibers and also the mobile networks and so forth. We're also present globally at the major data centers, and we are pretty ready to be interconnected. Also, at the same time, we are an award-winning company, so we are proud of being awarded also by the carrier community back in 2021 and also other awards. So we are fairly into the innovation and also being able to cooperate with the other players of the data market and also the other carrier and telecommunication business. That's who we are. And from the area also who we are, we have the carriers as acting as our customers. It's important to point out that the enterprises who are driving the demand in terms of the data and interconnection are also coming from the carriers who are acting as our customers. But we have a fairly good understanding what the enterprises are coming up with the demands, because this is also a part of the cooperation we have with carrier business. And during the last couple of years, there was a fairly big transformation in how the interconnection needs and the customer needs were transforming. On the first side, we also saw that how COVID is impacting our business, and also how the customers were moving more into home office environments and so on and so forth. So when it comes to the connectivity of the users themselves, the customers of the enterprises, that was important to make sure that the customers and the co-workers of the companies have the possibility to get access to the data and the resources what we have and what they need to do for their daily operations, and also to maintain and sustain their business. Also, on the other side, the connectivity back to the resources what the enterprises are using was fairly important, because as the users are moving away from enterprise office locations whatsoever, it was important that the users still have the connectivity back to the resources at any given point of time, and also at any location where the particular user is located at, or the customer of the enterprise are located at. The third thing is that the data itself is getting higher importance over the time, and it's even accelerating over the time, and then making sure that the data which is generated over these daily exchanges are also possible to be stored and used, and also processed by some machine learning, artificial intelligence, and also pretty important things what we are talking about in the recent times. But we see that the needs from the enterprises are coming from the customer experience, that how they are going to be able to exploit even the data what they are generating and the connectivity needs what they have in the future the more, and also we need to pay a lot of attention to how the customer needs and the experience is changing over the time. What we see as an infrastructure-based operator, that the availability of the infrastructure going down to the customers, like with the fiber penetration, also the emergence of the 5G and having this at the enterprise locations, is also driving how the customers are thinking about their connectivity needs. But they are also looking into that the connectivity have to be in place at any time, even not on the same level, but just to make sure that something has to be sustained for that business operations. That's why resilience and different services are emerging, and the customers are willing to have a solution where they have the connection at any given point of time. Security is raising, because moving into network and moving away from locations is raising security concerns. And that's also one of the areas which is driving how the interconnection and connectivities are solved for the customers. And that also drives a little bit of the challenges that whenever the customers are making their decisions on how the network look like, how they are making their own investments, how they are making their digital transformation, it's very dependent on the connectivity, what they see at a given point of time, and also what they are going to see in the future as their business is growing or changing, or what flexibility possibilities are there if they need to shrink a particular location, doing the investments somewhere else. That creates the demand to us as a carrier, also as an infrastructure-based carrier, that we need to be able to adapt to the customer needs, and also we need to make this at a timely manner. We shouldn't be exposed to like equipment shortages, because the customers understand it, but they do not want to make their own decisions based on this kind of stuff. They just, whenever they have the need, they have a reason why the need is there, and we as carriers and we as providers have to understand that we need to be ready with our infrastructure at the time when the customers need that. They need to do it in a secure way, and we need to do this also in a timely way. We also see an opportunity that what we observed at the beginning of the SD-WANization and in the pre-COVID times, that customers were looking very much into how they are able to do the services on their own in a do-it-yourself model. What we saw as a transformation also in the meantime, that the customers understand that it may not be their core competence as it was in the pre-SD-WAN times, and they are willing to source out their decisions, so that the network design, the network development, and so on to carriers and to telecommunication companies. That's also a major opportunity what we have, that we are able to build up this expertise and provide our customers turnkey solutions. What we see that how this transformation is continuing, that we do not see that this trend is changing. What we see is that the employees are not going to be in office locations, they are going to work remotely, they are going to maintain, continue, and even a little bit accelerate this transformation, moving away from central locations. And because of that, the emergence of the cloud and moving anything and everything as a service is not going to stop. And this transformation into a cloud environment is also raising interconnection demands. Also, the artificial intelligence, as we could also hear in the previous panel discussion, it's also there. It's becoming our daily business, and it's there today, and it is also going to be there in the future. It's not even the future; it's our today's reality. And the importance to be able to aggregate the data to data centers is also going to stop. The importance of data center and interconnecting with them is just going to be there also. What we also need to keep in mind that the enterprise customers are making their decisions also on the availability of the infrastructure. It's getting more and more important for them that when they are making these decisions, that they are looking ahead of that how the infrastructure is going to look like. They are not making the decisions at the given demand, but they are making the decisions how their demand is going to develop in 3-5 years in advance. And that's what we as the carriers also have to be able to be ready to and to give the answers to the customers. Security, it's a key. It's also driving the way how the customers are looking to the interconnections. And also the data business. So all in all, what we as carriers and the telecommunication operators have to be ready for is that we need to understand what the customer experience demands from us, and then we need to be able to answer them today and also in the future. And the interconnections and the cooperation between telecom operators, data center operators, and cloud operators is essential to be able to make sure that the customer experience is met at the right way. What do we do as a global carrier? We have a pretty elaborate portfolio in terms of how we are serving our customers in the voice area, and the data area, and also whenever we are talking about the data, then we are also talking pretty much about enabling our customers to accelerate their SD-WAN implementations. We are not providing an SD-WAN, but we are enabling our carrier customers to do the deliveries on their own. And in terms of the internet and IP connectivity, that is also where our focus is put to. Again, to be able to meet all the different areas of the customer connectivity in the different network layers. And with this, I would like to hand over to Arvind. So Arvind, I'll stop sharing, and then you can share your own material.
Thank you, Gabor.
Thank you very much.
Has the screen showed up?
Yes, it's here.
Great stuff. Thank you, Gabor. It's great to partner with companies like Deutsche Telekom, who are at the coalface of making sure that the digital economies of the world are flourishing, and the networks and the trends in the market are really driving their approach to the way they deal with their customers. I wanted to bring a complementary set of insights to the presentation from Gabor. Where I want to start is, a picture. About 20 plus years ago, you might go to a venue, you might go to a stadium, you might go to a theater, and you're all watching the performances. A picture looks something like this. But in the world of today, you will see this kind of thing. It's a bit exaggerated, but I think you get the point that there's a lot of information that's been generated, it's been uploaded, it's been shared. It's really the way consumers and businesses are thinking. It's all about data. Data is the lifeblood of businesses. Data is the capabilities that drives innovation in the market. What we see from the amount of data that is crossing the networks throughout the world, we talk about data lakes. I'm now talking about data oceans. And we look at the business to consumer world, and there are lots of insights from around the industries where the B2C data is reaching the zettabyte scale, which is a lot of data. You can talk about how much zettabytes are, but they are immensely large volumes of data. Surveys with enterprise customers, particularly CIOs and CDOs, have already shown that around 80% or in excess of 80% of large enterprises are already reaching a petabyte scale in terms of the data-driven operations. What does that mean? What does that mean for enterprises? That we do believe that data is the new oil. Data is the way in which businesses will thrive. The data is the way in which businesses will innovate. With such a lot of data that is dependent on the success of a business, there is a saying which says cybercrime is the modern day mafia. There is a lot of industry news about breaches and data being stolen and monetized in some ways. This is why the relationship with security challenges is quite a key activity with SASE, with cloud access, cloud security brokers, and also encryption of data, not only when it's at rest, but also when it is in motion across the networks. The third category of the importance of this data is that it enables insights to be gathered, personalized. So artificial intelligence is the new user interface. You get to know about things via your own personal choice of applications and user interfaces. But at the back end, artificial intelligence is really driving your preferences and the ability for it to present to you what you want to see and what businesses want to see. And the last one, and I think it is very, very key for moving forward, is that real time is too late. You get to know about things that you really require before you know about it. And this is the art of artificial intelligence and machine learning presenting predictable outcomes. What does that mean? It means that the networks that underpin all of this really has to connect places and things. It has been doing that for a long, long time. But what is happening now is that more and more machines are being connected, more and more digitalization drives more and more applications to be connected. So if you combine all the aspects of people, things, places, machines, and applications, the traffic volumes in the data to shift data lakes, data oceans, and data out towards the digital societies, very, very critical. I'll give you a couple of quotes from two CEOs, one from a bank and one from the motor industry. These are informations I read through public press around the importance that at the CEO and boardrooms, they recognize that data and data scales is vitally important to the success of their businesses. From banks and also from cars, which put a different spin to it, which is essentially saying that a car is no longer a car, it's a software device. And it's gathering lots of data, and the artificial intelligence of that data shows how it can change its offer to customers and to the way they use their cars. Given that scenario, there is a huge shift to the cloud by enterprises. The shift to the cloud is no longer if or when, it is happening. Data has shown that about literally every enterprise in some way, shape, or form has shifted already to the cloud. Other data-driven businesses are even accelerating additional capabilities they want to bring into their business. So the private enterprise domains, where they had their own data centers and their own locations where they had IT and environments, all needed their own internal networks, are being stretched out towards the public cloud environments, whether it's a public-private cloud or a public cloud, software as a service. Any type of cloud-based model is being absorbed by companies in terms of decision making. The way I look at it is, I've been around for a long, long time, and you know, when I started my work, I only had a desk, a phone, and a notepad and a pen. There was no internet, there was no mobile phones, there was no computers. And if you look at how the pace of acceleration of IT has evolved, where you start moving from, you know, phone calls to IT in a private context, expanding the IT towards a data center, and the data centers themselves moving from private data centers to public data centers, where you can co-locate within an ecosystem of other you know, partnerships, such as enterprises with cloud providers, enterprises with content providers, and ISPs and carriers. And there are many, many ecosystems that form in these types of data centers. Not to forget that COVID, you know, enables the ability for the cloud to be connected to users that are mobile, users who are working remotely. The home as a branch concept is very, very prevalent in these days, and it will continue, as Gabor indicated. How do we connect all of these? The WAN is more important than ever. There are services that you can get from providers of IP services, Ethernet services. IP services are evolving to SD-WAN, or what I call managed virtual services, and the dedicated internet access types of services allow you the capability to drive your network and connectivity demands from a few hundreds of devices to thousands to hundreds of thousands of endpoints. The key area of what happens in the back office, what does the IT environment look like in your data center world, whether it's your own data centers or whether it's a data center that is sitting in a cloud, is the need for shifting those data lakes. And this is where optical services are quite a critical connectivity option. So there is no one size fits all in connectivity. IP, Ethernet, virtual services, and optical services are really there to bring to life the world that we live in. Data centers are important. If somebody asked me what the cloud was, I would say a cloud was within a data center, and when you interconnect data centers, you will then create that, you know, homogeneous cloud that is global, regional, metro, and in an enterprise campus world. This map shows that there are thousands of data centers in Europe and several thousands across the world. These are all data centers where such resources can be leveraged in terms of enterprises and their requirements for becoming more agile, more digital, and highly effective in that way. So what are enabling network trends that drive data-driven businesses? I've got this simplified view of networks. I do believe that data center connectivity, whether public, private, is very, very important. There are the places where much of the intelligence, the grunt works of big IT workloads happen. And from there, the applications are then delivered out into the big wide world, whether it be a branch office, a headquarters, through to mobile networks, to homes and users. And the kind of services are shown on this graph here. People ask me, well, why do I need you know, such certain amounts of bandwidth and amount of capacity? There are lots of applications, and these are some common applications horizontally, no matter which industry you're in. You know, you need business continuity disaster recovery. You need IT mirroring. You need now to be able to bring data, gather data into the data center in order to do your machine learning and artificial intelligence processing. You need to be able to protect your data. You need to be able to take care of data availability throughout your business, but also the data sovereignty aspects where certain data needs to be kept within a certain boundaries governed by regulation. Any as a service kind of environment is typically conducted from the data center. Media companies will prepare the content and provide the streaming locations for your applications for entertainment, media, gaming, and the likes. What we're seeing is, those kinds of services are now, also taken out towards the edge, and all those applications are moving from core to the edge in some ways. Why am I saying that? If you think about moving a petabyte workload, typically an enterprise operation of a petabyte or 10 petabyte, 10 to 15% of that data is typically continuously moving between their enterprise locations and their facilities, including the cloud. Not only one cloud, but also multi-cloud. You may have a Microsoft cloud, IBM cloud, Amazon cloud. This is a multi-cloud dimension. If you want to move, very large workloads, you consider the amount of time it takes to move that amount of data. If you're on a 1 gigabit and you've got a 10 petabyte operation, it takes years. If you increase your bandwidth and your network services, you can move very large data lakes in places where you need them to do your IT back office activities around processing, delivering insights and stuff like that. 100 gigabits and 400 gigabits are becoming preeminent as we move forward. It's that ability to hit lots of data movement across critical infrastructures. Where is it going? We have a view in Sienna, and we believe that's resonating across industries and with our partners, that there are 3 key tenets of the network. First and foremost, the network is getting faster. About 20 years ago, 10 gig was a norm. I think in the 2010s, 100 gig became quite prevalent. So 100 gig became the new 10 gig, particularly in the high capacity domain. And we see 400 gigabit services starting to shift away into some critical applications. So 100 gig, 400 gig, 10 gig, these are the kind of speeds that requires consideration. The networks are also getting smarter. And what we mean by smarter is networks are becoming adaptive. The idea of network as a platform, the ability to look at networks as a load of endpoints, whether they're physical or virtual, highly automated, highly orchestrated, the ability for interaction with the network through portals and APIs, and delivering that customer experience, which is very much driven by where does the customer deliver the best, experience the best digital applications, regardless of where they are in the world. The third piece is networks. These faster networks are getting closer and closer to the edge. And if you look at what is being talked about in the Metaworks customer experience, there are applications that are not yet even been thought of that will require networks to be smarter and faster, closer and closer to the edge of networks. The last thing, as I mentioned about cybercrime at the beginning, is the networks will become safer. The networks will be their own sensors. They'll detect, certain issues with regard to capacity increases that might be due to fraudulent activities. It will also be a sensor to address automatically the changing needs of the network demands. By safer, I also mean that the ability to securely move data at a very, very fast rate at a wire speed location will contribute towards your security challenges as well. So faster, smarter, closer, and safer is, I believe, where the networks are heading. So with that, I thank you for hearing me, and I'll hand you back over to Eric.
Thank you so much, Arvind, and thank you. so much. Well done. So let's bump into the panel immediately with these gentlemen. And Eric, you're still there?
Indeed.
Loud and clear. Fantastic. Okay, cool. Okay, let me drop it now. So we saw already a couple of things in the slides with regards to how to interconnect now and in the future, of course. But what are the biggest trends and factors affecting the current connectivity market in the region actually here now to meet the demand? I mean, you spoke about it already a couple of times, but maybe Charmant, you can kick that off.
Yes, thank you for that. I think if you look at the Asia region to start with, I mean, you start seeing the increasing in demand for data connectivity, obviously. Cloud connectivity is taking so popular there now. And now there's a trend for continuous demand for good quality internet services as well. Now, if you really ask the customer what they want, I mean, they will tell you, I need competitive price, I need good quality, I need short lead time for delivery, and I also need to trial before I place order. Now, these are all the demands from all the demanding customer in the Asia region, and now most of the Asia carriers are able to fulfill all these demand. Now, think about that. I mean, these customers are now expanding globally, so they will continue to ask the same question, the same demand to provider in Europe. Are you prepared to provide them trial before they use it? No. Are you prepared to sign a 1-month contract with them? Are you prepared to deliver the service in 5 minutes? Are you prepared to do that? So if carriers or partners are not prepared, probably they need to think about that now, because that probably will be the trend or already just happening in a lot of different regions in the world. So I see the trend is going is a lot. You will see a lot of demanding requests from customers asking for services that I mentioned. They probably will get a service provider in order to fulfill all these needs from them.
Thank you. Wouter, what do you see as, let's say, connectivity widely? I mean, what kind of trends do you see around you?
Well, if we look at the market, I guess that goes for all carriers and all internet exchanges, that the capacity continues to grow. Capacity continues to grow with 20, 30, 40%. I mean, COVID obviously did a lot. I think remote working has been an interesting challenge. I think as an industry, we coped pretty well, because we're happy to be here live again. But I mean, unfortunately, Eric, you couldn't make it to be here live. We met a few times on video, and that is obviously something which is very known to all of us. But what we see is a lot of capacity increase. I agree with Arvind that we see more and more demand for applications to get closer to the edge. From that perspective, I honestly believe in kind of a layered model where some of the data will be very close to a customer, and if we look at companies. I mean, companies like Meta, like Microsoft, they have the ability to be everywhere locally, very close to the customer. But there's also going to be applications which simply don't have the size nor the investment power to be everywhere locally, and they will kind of either be on a regional or even on a intercontinental level, where they will only have a few pops. And those type of applications will demand a lot of connectivity still. So with the connectivity, with the application moving closer to the users, we probably need more local capacity, and we're going to utilize less of the long haul capacity. So hopefully that will give a bit of relief. But I just learned that quite a few of the subseas are pretty filled up, and that's causing some concerns.
And to rent a boat to lay another one costs you already 3 years. So stand in line.
Exactly.
So stand in line. Thank you, Walter. Jens, what do you see? I mean, Walter was talking about the regional approach. I mean, I know with you guys, you saw that regional approach as well in the market, and you answered to the market actually. So what trends do you see in the connectivity market from your point of view?
So let me take it a little bit further step back. So because we do the interconnection, the physical or the logical interconnection, because we need to connect the dots. Or what we're saying is, you need to somehow connect the dots. That's normally happening in a data center or anywhere near an IX. Could be the DKIX, could be in Amsterdam, wherever, right? So you need to connect the dots, right? So far in the past, we were always only the carriers, but more and more enterprise customers are getting an own AS number and also want to be able to peer. So you need to do the physical connection or a logical connection. Many companies running a Ethernet exchange platform. Nevertheless, the Ethernet exchange platform is only as good as much partners you have on the platform where you can do a logical connection. Let's say the problem with that, it's rather smaller capacities you do via an Ethernet exchange platform. It's most of the time it's a 1 or 10G. Hardly it's a 100G. 100G normally still requires a physical cross connect. Either and then you have 3 types, right? There are still electrical cross connects, or still copper in the data center. You have single mode, multi-mode for optical cross connects. So this is so you see the trend still copper there, but it's getting less. But they're very legacy stuff, as I said, in a data center, especially when you're in a data center where many carriers land, whether they are local, regional, global. There are some thousands of cross connects, and it's a very nice business for a data center provider because everybody has to pay a monthly recurring fee for that cross connect. So the trend is, how do I get more flexible? I need to cross connect only for a trial, for a POC, half a month. The business model gives you normally a month minimum. Some platforms where you do cross connects via Ethernet exchange, you do it per minute, or you do it via the portal, you do configure your VLAN directly, right, with the customers, with the participants that are there, and if you don't need it, to disconnect again, and that you pay very flexible. But the trend is optical, so the physical cross connects, they will be optical only, and the logical will be more and more. So you see more and more suppliers, more and more service companies are having their own portal, and these portals, they will need to glue together, because what is the network is there's not a single network. We have thousands of different networks, and they need to be interconnected to fulfill all the things that we want to do. We need the cloud connects, we need the applications, everything is going mobile, but we need to have this physical layer ready for it and ready for purpose. And that is a challenge. It's a big challenge for any data center provider.
Okay, thank you. Eric, also to you, what kind of trends in the connectivity market do you see? And maybe you can bridge this actually immediately into, let's say, the key challenges which are affecting actually the players given the capacity shortages due to the global market situation.
Yeah, for sure. Let me, if you don't mind, share a little bit of data with you. I'll fire up the share screen accordingly. See how quickly I can do this in real time. And
you're fast.
Yeah, good. So looks okay?
Yep.
Okay, good. So yeah, just as we've been talking a lot about bandwidth growth, and at least on an international basis, which is a pretty good proxy for total, is continuing to grow. I mean, the growth is slowing, maybe a little bit, but you're still talking about just shy of 40% growth. I think if you asked any enterprise if they'd like to have a nearly 40% growth in the business, they'd be delighted to have that.
Sign it up blindly.
Yeah, and it's still nearly doubling every 2 years. Not quite, but nearly doubling every 2 years. So definitely the growth, we can see that. And there's been some discussion about meeting that and shortage, and it's not really shortage. I mean, there's clearly some supply chain issues now in keeping up with the utilization and getting the equipment in to light up the capacity, as I'm sure Arvind could attest to. And the historical utilization rates on submarine cables here are usually below 30%, and they have indeed risen over time to accommodate the growth in bandwidth demand, but they're still under 50%. We do not have any catastrophe, in utilization here. And of course, systems continue to be put in at a rapid pace, and they need to keep doing that. And that may get interesting with the total capacity for cable ships to go out there and get these jobs done. But right now, that's what the utilization looks like. And this is where things are changing. If you look at the proportion of that bandwidth out there that is used by different network operators, it used to be nearly 100% the carriers, and in some routes that's still the case, but in most routes, particularly transatlantic, by far most of that capacity is owned by content providers. I mean, this isn't only the cloud providers, but it does include them. I mean, this would have Meta, for example, would be in this group, but also Google. That yes, it has Google Cloud, but it also has YouTube and everything else. So they are consuming and using their own bandwidth, which has a lot of implications for addressable market for wholesale, which we get into in a lot of our work. And just to get into Wouter's space, he's an IX. This is measuring co-location, which is a perfectly good proxy for that. And you can see where that is throughout the world, and it's growing. I just want you to take note of where that is. It's sort of on this lateral line, around the world, with only a few, major developments down here in the Southern Hemisphere. And sure enough, when you look at the cloud providers, that's where they're offering their connectivity. Now, this is not where their data centers are, their own private data centers. This is actually where they offer direct connectivity, and it's largely in the same places that the normal general co-location is, although they may be a little bit stronger, it seems, in growth down in the Southern Hemisphere. I'll keep going. I have two more here just to kind of frame everything we've already been talking about. This looks at the different types of connectivity, and folks are exploring different options, rather than the default option for sort of traversing a customer prem to the cloud provider network. And I'll just leave that there. But here's an important slide that we talk a lot about the different mix of WAN services that enterprises are using, and we can definitely measure that VPNs still represent the plurality of usage at enterprise sites, but the growth it's negative. It is declining and giving up share to internet access, both DIA and broadband. So I'll leave you with that, and we can obviously return to anything you wanted to focus more on.
Thank you, Eric. Arvind, anything to add to that, especially on the key challenges which are affecting players?
Yeah, I think there are two factors I'd like to emphasize. One is, usually in a distributed world, not only of networks, but also where the IT is required by customers, you may have lots of capacity in a certain geography. I'll say London is a good example, where it's everywhere. But the moment you start to, in the UK, there's a good phrase going on about leveling up, and you want to start taking, the societies across the land. There are places where there is no network. There's places where broadband is very poor. So the capacity and the network reach is a key thing. And I think the problem is going to be addressed as we go forward. That's one area of things. The other area that Eric mentioned, I'm very interested to know about the subsea cables. It's a huge industry by itself. And when you start thinking about the amount of capacity that's flowing in the subsea cables, we are talking about multi-petabit per second scale in a single cable, or a conglomeration of cables. And that is projected to grow at the rate that Eric mentioned, 30 to 40% growth in the transatlantic routes. It requires equipment, absolutely. you know, with the supply, logistics, all these things is a bit stressed at the moment, but it will come back. And the idea of existing cables increasing capacity with newer technology, such as you know, taking a 500 gig wavelength from Europe to North America, is there today. And then new cables that are being planned, and there are public announcements around those. The world is going to be globally connected. The networks and the capacities are there, not as much as you know, is desired today, but we know that it's going to be you know, taken care of within the next you know, future trends, both in technology and deployments.
Okay, thank you. Gabor, anything to add what the gentleman said?
Actually, I think that the gentleman said the right things. What is also pretty important, that we need to be able to move pretty close to how to automate the interconnection. I think that that's where Jens was also coming from, that the interconnections are still fairly physical, as long as we are talking about high capacities, and where also the demand is going to go to that as the digitization is just accelerating or just keeping up, that we also need to find the answers for how we are going to be able to also put this automation to as quick interconnection and as cost-effective interconnection as possible. So that's the only thing what I wanted to add.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're running a little bit out of time, so but I still want to capture a couple of topics which are important. So Wouter, for you, I mean, how can internet exchanges provide more cost-effective interconnectivity within the complex ecosystem emerging from the cloud? How can you help them? What can you do? Or what are you doing already?
Well, I think you know, in terms of cost effectiveness, I mean, if we look at the three options, you know, direct connectivity or MPLS type of connectivity, IP transit, which is extremely efficient, but not always the right answer, and peering, where networks come together in internet exchanges. You know, I believe that internet exchanges have kind of a distribution role, where you know, let's take a quick simple example. If you take Cisco, for example, as a manufacturer, and you take Dimension Data as a reseller, as a value-add reseller, however, integrator, whatever we call them, you know, those guys are so big, they can do business directly. If we take Meta and we take Telecom, you know, they will interconnect directly because they're so big. But there is a long tail of, on the one side, networks that not everyone can connect to. I mean, Meta cannot connect to everyone. On the other hand, there's so many applications that Telecom probably couldn't connect to. And that's where a distribution function comes in, and I think that internet exchanges are fulfilling that role. And if we're even able to kind of better display what the demand and the supply is that we bring together, you know, we can fulfill that function better, and it is a cost-effective way of connecting your network. I mean, it's probably not. It's cheaper probably than dedicated networks. It may not be yet as effective as some of the IP transits, but it definitely has advantages in terms of security and control. So I think by default, internet exchanges as a distribution function will help to drive costs down. Okay.
Charmant and Jens, quick reaction for yourself. Is this guy, are the IXs supporting you guys, or the other way around?
They are very supporting. From what I see, right, I would be excited to see you guys is offering the as a service, IX as a service product. I mean, think about what I said earlier. I mean, we need a collaboration. We need to form a federation. I mean, we need to do it fast and quick, with all that physical NNI and with all these advanced APIs to get all these things orchestrated automatically. Now, we've done that before. We see a lot of company with orchestration of availability. They already connect to the cloud data very successfully. Now, they can do it and connect to the IX as well. I don't see why not. You cannot add another endpoint into all the federated network. It is possible, and it probably is doing it. You guys have a plan for that already. Now, what I see I would like to borrow a phrase from President John Kennedy. He said it in 1960. He said, "We stand now at the age of a new frontier. We are all standing in the same place." So I think I would call for interesting parties to be the pioneers to actually go into to face a frontier, which is a new ecosystem federation. I believe this is something going to happen. It's happening now, and with all the advanced API ability with carriers, with IX provider, with data center provider as well. So we can form that federation. If this federation can work, well, we will address a lot of problems that all the gentlemen we have discussed and raised it today. That would be something that can do it quick, fast, agile, and that's what customer wants.
Okay, thank you. And by the way, before I give you the word, because you mentioned John F. Kennedy, yeah? You know which city we are. And you know what he said when he was in Berlin? Ich bin ein Berliner. So thank you for the quote of John F. Kennedy. But Jens, quick, how can the IXs support?
Well, I mean, they support, of course. I mean, it's a logical
challenge them.
It's a logical cooperation between data center providers, system integrators, and the IXs, of course, right? We bring them the customers, they bring us the capability to peer or to interconnect, of course. So they support us. They can support us, of course. They need to be quick and flexible and cost effective. Right, but I think that they are. I mean, also the IXs are around the world or in Europe. Of course, they are competitors, right? So so somebody wants to be in MZIX, somebody wants to be in Link, somebody wants to be in DKIX, and some IXs are more aggressive to expand globally than others, right? So yeah, so that's interesting. But for us, it's it's a good collaboration anyway. So they support us, we support them. For me, but the challenge for me really, and this is where I don't really have the answer, but the challenge is how do we get automized interconnection for larger networks on a very cost-effective way? And that is a challenge that the industry need to answer. Honestly, I don't see yet, is there a mobile connectivity possible in the future? I'm sure there will be, at least for some capacity, but still not for large capacities, right? So, and this is a challenge, and I'm not sure, so it's hard to predict, but I'm sure as long as I still in work, maybe my children, there's always the need for physical cross connects. It won't go away. And we heard it, subsea cable, and I think it's a perfect example, because this interconnection is always connecting a physical layer with a virtual layer. The more everything goes virtual, it's fine. This is the direction where we go. Everything comes out of the cloud application, cloud connects, mobile, 5G, 7G, whatever comes in the future, it always needs a physical layer. And the physical layer need to be connected and cross-connected. Otherwise, the whole network would not work as it is today.
All right. Moving on. Arvind, quick one for you, please, if possible. I know. How do you think that the enterprise can win with the growing internet exchanges ecosystem and cloud connectivity? What can you share with us?
Yeah, so interesting, conversation just now about internet is connected everywhere, almost. But I do think that COVID has taught us a few lessons. We see that the peering points are becoming highly distributed, and the peering players will start to, work together in certain edge type of infrastructures. And then aggregated traffic gets shot over to an internet exchange, and then you become connected to the whole internet. So I do think that the peering and the internet exchanges have to collab quite well. And when I talked about network as a platform earlier in my talk, I think the network as a platform, highly automated, enables the capability to have this distributed peering plus internet exchange environment, because to connect to the cloud, you have to go via the internet, definitely, but there are alternatives to connect to the cloud as well. And this is where, you know, you hear about direct connect from Amazon or express route from Microsoft or Google interconnect. These are direct vehicles to go straight into the cloud with the level of performance that you need for your business, whether it's in the core or the edge. So I do think that the options to connect to the cloud, you know, will be internet via peering and internet exchanges for sure. I think Ethernet and MPLS is a vehicle that's been used quite a lot over the years by the enterprise. But I do think that as they get these big data lakes that needs to be moved to certain locations from the edge to a core, to a multi-cloud environment, and we start talking about hundreds of terabytes continuous, or a workload migration, or a petabyte workload to be shifted from place to place, a direct connection at speeds of 100 gig and 400 gig will become a requirement. And we need to make sure that the commercial model behind it is attractive enough to enable enterprises to leverage that, what I think is a very, very weak spot at the moment in terms of being able to move huge workloads of data to and from their own environment to a multi-cloud environment.
Okay, thank you very much, Arvind, and thank you, Eric, for jumping in there. So, any questions from the audience? You've been so silent and so listening, and are you enjoying it? Thank you, thank you. No, that's interaction, right? So, closing off, I would like to ask the panelists for the closing statements. What do we have to look out for? What's their next? What do they think will come? It's all about. So, Eric, over to you for your closing words. Well, what can you share with us? Well, what should we look out for? Or you're mute, or
it hides the mute button when you share.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think the things to look out for, and I suppose I could share that again, but you know, you were talking, I put that up when Arvind was talking, because things to look out for would include that, you know, the enterprise can use, you know, several different types of connectivity to their sites. Not, you know, I think wireline will continue to, some type of wireline connection will continue to be foremost, but you have 5G coming up, and among other things, it provides another robust connection to local access, because so much of the innovation in the industry kind of comes back to local access, and you have to have the, you know, at least in terms of enterprises, the buildings connected, you know, in order to get the goodness of the rest of the network. And then what you see going on more in the middle mile, we've been talking about automation going up to higher capacities. And that is indeed, we're going that direction, either from sort of co-location providers that are getting more into the transport space, or transport providers that are getting more into co-location. And they're trying to bundle that in an optimized way to connect the enterprise with the cloud. And at the same time, the cloud service providers are expanding their networks. So we have this interesting mix going on, and there's no reason that a traditional carrier or telco can't provide, you know, all of this linkage and interconnectivity as well. But there is some, you know, a little bit of disruption, a little bit of a mix going on, and it'll be interesting to see how it turns out, as honestly the interconnection business tries to look a little bit more like the, at least in commercial terms, the cloud business, so that you can have more, you know, flexible transactions rather than long, you know, terms and connect, as a traditional connectivity business has been.
All right, thank you so much, Jens. Any closing words?
A little bit the same. So I think we can watch out for some wireless connections, cross connection, maybe via Wi-Fi in the near future. So, and a new modern data center need to do the fundament. So need to have a very flexible structured cable system connecting the meet-me's that are already fit for purpose to transport all the petabits that may come, but of course you need to distribute it within the data centers, and there is some distribution hopefully will be wireless.
Okay, thank you. Wouter?
Yeah, to go with Jarmond, he said we need to work together more. So if we look into our future, from the plumber side, if you will, our mission is to build a better society by building a better internet, because we do care. And what we're trying to do is not expand for the sake of expanding. We're not expanding to compete, as Jens said, that internet exchanges compete. Us moving into London and London moving into Amsterdam, it doesn't help. It doesn't help the internet. I mean, we can do it for our own sake, but it doesn't help the total community, because it creates basically a splinternet instead of an internet. So we are very much looking forward to, and we're developing that a cooperation with our peers who are willing to do that as well. Any location where we go in the world, we work together with partners to make the internet better, and to work together with local parties to help them build those ecosystems and move forward. And probably the next step is not just internet exchanges working together, but working together more closely even with Jarmond.
Okay, thank you. Jarmond, closing.
I wish I have a crystal ball to look in the future, but I don't. But I would like to share a few of my observations. Because of the complexity of all the interconnect, and probably you will see a lot of intelligent, maybe AI, ML, they're trying to find the best route through all the complexity of different network, on-net, off-net, and off-net. So think about all this put together. What's the best route? What's the best route from A to B? Think about it, it's quite a challenge. I know there's a lot of algorithms out there, but probably it's not designed for telecom. So there's something that the intelligent routing was something that definitely need to be evolved. Mm-hmm. And secondly, I would see the connectivity will become commoditized, mm-hmm. even faster than you expected. I mean, one day probably you can buy a connectivity from eBay, from A to B. You search, for A to B, how much cost? Okay, I'll buy it. So this situation is happening now. Will happen. So we will see a lot of easy access for you to check price now. You can just use go on it and check price. So now it's getting so popular now. So I mean, as the parties that we involved in the industry, probably we need to be aware of that and see this happening. How are we going to do it? What strategy are we going to do? That is quite important, I reckon.
Okay, thank you, Arvind. Please.
Hi, yes, I think I will challenge that statement about connectivity become a commodity. Unfortunately, when companies like ours, we build systems, software and services to make network as a platform. I think the value that I would like to see is that, the data that you push through the network and the performance you need for the network is really a valuable conversation to have, rather than a commodity conversation. Because if you want to shift, certain applications that are critical, you've got to get it done within 2 hours. You've got to be able to make sure that all your customers and your users are able to access your facilities and your services. Without a network, turn it off and see what it will be like. Your business will go out of business. And that's what I'm saying. I think there is value in the network. I'm passionate about it. I want enterprises to broaden the landscape of the network, understand where it's going with regard to network as a platform, faster, smarter, closer, safer. Look at the perspective of the network in the overall context of your business. It is at the table of your boardrooms and your CIOs, CDOs, CISOs. I think the network conversations need to be brought to the table, and we are more than happy as an ecosystem to take the network to a place where it needs to be.
Thank you so much. Last words.
Thank you very much. So I also do not have a crystal ball, and as I learned, I can't borrow it from Chairman. But what I'm certain about is that the demand is going to increase, and the increase of the capacity demand and the connected demand is not going to stop. The enterprises, the users are not going to fundamentally change the way they are using network and connectivity in a direction that it's going to decline. It's going to increase, and as we also learned it from Eric, it's also not slowing down. It's still with a growing pace. In order to meet this customer demand and in order to have a right customer experience, on one side we need the partners like Sienna, like Arvind, to get as close to the physical limits as possible and also provide as high connectivity as possible as it's coming out from the physical network capabilities we have. On the other side, we also need to consider very seriously the partnership with all the other players on the market, because at the end of the day, the customers are going to select the applications and the network solutions which are closest to their own demands. And I think that there is room for all the different players on the market to maintain these demands, or to meet these demands. So at the end of the day, the connectivity and also the interconnection part of the connectivity is going to be a fairly important part of how we are meeting the global connectivity demands. And yeah, at the end of the day, we need to make sure that that we are creating a better community for our consumers, for the enterprises, and actually I think that's on one side a mission, on the other side responsibility. So we need to keep on cooperating on that one.
Okay, thank you. And with those famous last words, if I may say, I want to thank, first of all, the audience. I would like to thank Arvind and Eric over there outside. Next time, live, please. Jens, Charmant, Walter, and of course, Gabor. Thank you so much. Stay tuned, guys.
Thank you so much.